of a decentralised strand of Key Action 1, known as Mobility for Young People and Youth Workers. We'll primarily focus on how to complete the application form and provide you with some helpful hints and tips regarding the application process. If you would like more information on Key Action 1 Youth, you can refer to the live webinar which took place last week and has now been published on the Erasmus Plus website, or the 2017 programme guide and other documents from the UK National Agency. My name is Daniel King and I'm an Assistant Project Manager working within the Erasmus Plus team, and I'll be your presenter today. I also have my colleagues with me today who will now introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Raj and I work on the Key Action 1 Youth team, and I'll be running through the application with you today.
Hi, I'm Melissa and I also work with the Key Action 1 Youth team, and I will be answering your question today.
Thank you guys. So just get started with the presentation now. To give you an overview of what the webinar will cover, I'll start by giving you a quick introduction to Key Action 1 Mobility for Young People and Youth Workers, focusing mainly on the application form. We'll first look at what you need to do before applying, then we'll go through the application form together, filling out certain sections and then round up to the key points. Finally, we'll end the webinar with next steps and contact details if you require further support and we run up to the deadline. Key Action 1 provides opportunities for individuals to improve their skills, enhance their employability and gain cultural awareness through transnational mobility. Under Key Action 1, organisations can apply for funding to offer structured study, work experience, job shadowing, training and teaching opportunities to both learners, the young people, and staff, the youth workers. More details can be found in the Guide for Applicants and the 2017 Programme Guide. For Key Action 1 Youth, we are now approaching the final deadline for the 2017 call round 3, which is 4th of October 2017. Please remember that all applications can be submitted online only, and most importantly, their submission must be made by 11 AM UK time, which is 12 PM Brussels time, on the day of the actual deadline. For Key Action 105, we will now be using a web-based e-form application rather than the old PDF version. We will take you through this step by step later in the webinar. Before we look at the application form, I would like to mention a few very important pre-application steps that you should take. You will need to ensure that you have obtained a PIC, which stands for Participant Identification Code, for your organisation before applying. This is a 9-digit number which is unique to your organisation and will allow you to complete the application form. Also, you need to make sure that all the details for your organisation are correct in the European Commission's participant portal. If you don't already have a PIC, you'll need to complete 2 registration steps. Firstly, you will need to register on the EU login. This is a point for user authentication to a wide range of EU Commission tools. The registration process is very simple and you can download a guide on our website which will talk you through how to do this. This is in the Before You Apply section. You'll find the link to it on the handout. Secondly, you will then need to obtain a PIC through the Participant Portal. Participant Portal is the single entry point for the electronic administration of Erasmus Plus projects, as well as projects funded over other EU programmes. After starting the registration process, you'll be prompted to provide information about your organisation, so to upload documents related to your organisation. These documents are needed to prove the legal status and financial capacity of your organisation, and it's essential that the information in these documents matches the information you've inputted on the portal. Please be aware that all of your partners will also need to have obtained a PIC and have uploaded all the necessary supporting documents on the participant portal before you can submit your application. This is because the details of all participating organisations will be pulled into the application from the participant portal and cannot be completed manually. Finally, for your partners, you'll also need to download the 2017 Partner Mandate Templates form from our website and have them filled in by each partner and signed by both parties. Make sure that all the information, such as the name of the organisation, the address, the legal representative, the registration number, the legal form on the partner mandate is identical to the information in the application form. Otherwise, the partner mandate will not be accepted. After you've finished with the pre-application steps, you can move on to the application form itself. The application form is now a web-based application which we'll call the e-form going forward. The e-form will need to be submitted online by the applicant organisation by the deadline. Please keep in mind that this is 11 AM UK time, as the deadline for applications is 12 PM Brussels time. The application form is available on the Apply for Youth Mobility Funding page in the Erasmus Plus website under Key Action 1. You will be entering the same information that you would have entered on the PDF version, however the functionality of the form has changed. To make sure that you are working on the correct Key Action 1 application form, you should check the areas you can see on this slide. In the top right hand corner, the form should state 2017 as the call year and Key Action 105 as the action type, which is youth mobility. Now we'll go into the actual application form and run this with you. And just switch over to that now.
Okay, hello everybody. So we will now talk you through the new Erasmus Plus online application e-form for youth mobility projects, Key Action 105. As we mentioned, the e-form is no longer a PDF document and must be completed online in your web browser. The form has been successfully tested on the following browsers: Internet Explorer, Firefox, and Chrome. We recommend, where possible, you use a PC to complete the form. You will still need an Adobe Reader to download the Declaration of Honour, and we would like to remind you that in terms of the content, the application has not changed. We'll go through each section of the application, highlighting the new structure of the web application form. For more detailed guidance on each section, refer to our Guide for Applicants, which is available on the Erasmus Plus website under the Apply for Youth Funding page. Here you will also find the link to the application e-form. It is important you consult the most up-to-date versions of the national agency's guidance. These include the 2017 Guide for Applicants, 2017 Programme Guide, and most importantly, using the correct 2017 Round 3 application form. The application for Key Action 1 Strategic EVS is still in the old PDF format. To open the application, you will need to click on the link and you will be taken to the EU login screen. Log in using your EU login credentials, and then you'll be redirected to the home page. On this page, you will need to select Apply on the Youth Mobility option. Once you have clicked Apply, a welcome message will appear. Please read this carefully, as it gives you important information on some of the form's functions. You will also notice at the top the tab My Applications. Here you will see any applications which you have already started or finalized. Each time you click on Apply, a new draft of the application will be created and saved here. Therefore, if you have numerous application drafts saved, ensure you open and edit the correct one. The application is saved automatically every 2 seconds. There is therefore no option to save the form, and you must ensure you are connected to the internet at all times. The menu on the left displays each section of the application, which currently shows a red triangle until each mandatory section has been fully completed with the correct information. Individual boxes within each section will also be marked with a red line on the left-hand side until information has been entered. Applications cannot be submitted until all sections have been marked with a green tick. So the first section of the e-form is Context. Here you will need to enter your project details, which include the project title, the project acronym if this is applicable, the start date, durations, and so forth. Some key points to note here. Start dates must be between the 1st of January 2018 and 31st of May 2018 and can be entered manually or selected using the calendar. Ensure you use the right format of a date with hyphens if you enter it manually. Duration should be between 3 to 24 months and are selected using the drop-down menu. Project end dates will automatically populate. The national agency must be UK 01 United Kingdom, and the language selected must be English. The overall project duration will need to encompass all project-related activities from promotion and recruitment through to evaluation and dissemination. It is important to consider a realistic project duration to be able to carry out all activities to a high standard. In addition, under the 2017 call, final reports will no longer be accepted by the UK National Agency prior to the project end date. This should therefore also be taken into consideration. Ensure you have incorporated sufficient time before your activities to be able to purchase economical travel tickets, and we also recommend you allow time for preparation and be wary of delays in receiving your contracts or pre-financing payments. As you can see now, all the fields have been completed and this section is marked with a green tick. So moving on to participating organisations, this has two subsections, applicant organisation and partner organisation. You may add a new partner via the Add Partner button at the bottom of the screen. The e-form will create a new subsection under partner organisations. This process will repeat every time you add a new partner. We will demonstrate that for you. Okay. And to remove the partner, you can just click on the menu button and delete the partner. So to enter the details of your organisation and the partner, enter the PIC number in the corresponding box. This will automatically populate the organisation's legal name from the participant portal. You can view the organisation's details by selecting the name or clicking the menu button on the right-hand side of the row. Organisation's details allows you to view details, and refresh organisation should be used if any changes are made on the participant portal. Now you will notice there are a number of boxes greyed out. This information is populated from the participant portal and cannot be amended here. If any of this information is incorrect, ensure you update the participant portal. The two questions on organisation type will need to be completed. Please note if the answer to the second question is yes, organisational support amounts will be reduced by 50% as highlighted in the 2017 programme guide. So this is if your organisation is a public body, at a regional or national level, or an association of regions, a European group of territorial corporations, or a profit-making body active in corporate social responsibility. Now the next section below is accreditation and applies to EVS projects only and will be pre-filled according to the information from your PIC. All applicant organisations applying for EVS must be an accredited coordinating organisation with a valid EVS accreditation before the deadline. Otherwise, your application will be rejected. All sending and hosting organisations must also have the relevant accreditation for the duration of the whole project and correspond to their role, so for example, hosting or sending. The next section below is associated persons. The details of the legal representative and contact person should be added here by again clicking the menu button on the corresponding row. Both sections for the contact person and legal representative need to be completed in full for the section to record as complete. It is important that the legal representative's details are consistent throughout the application form, the declaration of honour, the partner mandate, and other supporting documents. The menu across the top of the page will allow you to navigate between sections and pages. The contact person will be the first point of contact during the application process, and should the application be successful, the contracting and delivery of the project. We strongly recommend that the contact person is different from the legal representative, and if any details are to change, the UKNA are notified. If you are requesting linguistic support, online linguistic support, and the OLS contact is the same as the contact person, this can be indicated here. Alternatively, if the OLS contact is a different person, please indicate no and go back to the top menu and click Add Associated Person. Associated persons can also be removed by clicking the menu button and selecting Delete Person. Now, the final section covers information on the background and experience of your organisation. The information in this section will inform the assessor of your organisation's capacity to manage the project and requested grant successfully. You will need to provide an overview of your organisation, including your aims and details of the young people you work with. This is followed by the activities and experience of your organisation in the areas relevant for this application. Detail here how your organisation's previous experience of delivering projects or activities has developed the skills and knowledge needed for the activities you propose in the application. You will also need to enter information on the key staff involved in the project, including their experience and/or qualifications. Finally, you will be asked to indicate if you have applied or received grant from any European Union programme in the 12 months preceding this application. If you opt yes, you will be required to provide more information on these grants. You can select Add Grant to enter more than one. Now, once the information on the applicant organisations has been completed, you will need to go back to the participating organisations. All partners must be added to the application, as we already have done so here. Similar to the applicant organisation, ensure you enter the partner's PIC number to pre-fill the organisation's details, open their details and edit, and for each partner you will have to provide the details of their contact person and legal representative, as well as their background and experience. Now, just a few hints and tips here. A high-quality application will be specific in each section, providing good details on the background and experience and naming the key persons involved in delivering the project and their skills. Emphasize on previous experience of your organisation and your partners in delivering projects and activities, and the skills and knowledge is developed, linking these to the activities you're proposing in the application. Explain how the activities fit into other programs or activities you deliver. This will help the assessor understand the needs and expertise of your organisation and the potential impact. Be clear on each partner's work and expertise and why they have been selected. This applies to all partners, even including the smaller organisations. Now, moving on to project description. In this section, you must provide a rationale for your project, identifying the objectives, issues, and needs of your project that you will address. Outline how these needs and objectives were established, for example, through research and planning meetings. And where possible, youth exchanges and EVS projects should demonstrate how young people were actively involved in shaping the project. Show a clear link with the priorities and objectives of Key Action 1 Youth, and detail how the partnerships were formed, their contribution in terms of their skills and experience and that is relevant to the project. Outline how this project links to the needs and objectives of your partners. For the topics addressed by your project, select up to 3 relevant topics from the options. If your project expects to address more, please choose the most relevant. Now, moving on to participants' profile. Describe who your participants are and provide details of their background, their learning needs, what the learning outcomes of your project are, and if you are involving any participants with fewer opportunities. This will vary depending on the activity you are applying for. Therefore, ensure you refer to the guidance for each relevant activity. Under this section, you will need to describe the participants' actual or likely age ranges, gender and ethnicity, how you will ensure a gender balance or other pertinent information. Detail the recruitment and selection process from all partner groups and how you will ensure a fair process. Please note, it is expected that participants attend no more than 2 youth exchanges and no more than 1 long-term EVS. to ensure opportunities are made available to as wide a group of people as possible, and to make best use of European funds. Participants must be resident in the country of their sending or receiving organisation. You must state if your project involves participants with fewer opportunities. If you select yes, you will need to identify the types of situations these participants are facing. Enter the actual or likely profile of the participants. You'll be able to add a maximum of 7. For more detailed guidance on each category, refer to page 9 of the Programme Guide, Equality and Inclusion. Outline the competencies or learning outcomes participants will acquire through participation, and identify the competencies that specific activities and methods will develop. There should be a clear link between the aims of your project and the activities and the learning outcomes, and these should be relevant to your participants and address their needs too. Erasmus Plus promotes the use of European tools and certifications such as YouthPass, which is the most commonly used European recognition tool for non-formal and informal learning in youth work. You will have to state if you will use any competence validation certificates, and if so, which ones. So moving on, the next section is preparation. When completing this section, refer to the information provided in the award criteria for this specific key action in the programme guide. Practical arrangements should reflect on how practical and logistical arrangements will be addressed, which include but are not limited to travel, accommodation, insurances, safety and protection of participants, visas, social security considerations, mentoring and support, and preparatory meetings with partners. This section should detail how and when you plan to deliver these practical aspects and which partners or individuals will manage these. For EVS applications, you can also refer to the EVS Charter. Alternatively, see pages 278 to 283 in the Programme Guide for more details. Outline partner responsibilities and how you will work together to manage practical arrangements and your communication channels. Identify potential risks in relation to tasks, participants and location, as well as plans for mitigating these risks to ensure the safety of all involved. This should include agreements on emergency procedures and a code of behaviour for participants. In addition, include your plans for obtaining suitable insurances and managing any additional visa requirements and legal aspects to evidence how you will manage these. We expect that you plan to comply with the UK legislation and consider relevant national legislation in the country of each partner. Detailed information about this is included in the application guidance. If you have any further concerns, please contact our team before you submit your application. As a minimum, the following areas must be covered by the appropriate insurance: travel, including damage or loss of luggage, third-party liability, accident and serious illness or death. Specify any particular procedures you will implement, for example, parental consent, health and safety audits, and DBS checks. If participants have specific needs, demonstrate how these will be addressed by you. Lastly, project management. This should focus on the process you have established for agreeing roles and responsibilities with partners in order to ensure quality learning outcomes, as well as good administration and delivery of the project. The process for establishing suitable methods and agreeing and monitoring learning outcomes for participants, and ensure you detail how you intend to facilitate their active involvement and reflection to ensure the relevance and quality of these outcomes. For EVS projects, an EVS volunteering agreement needs to be signed by the volunteer prior to their departure with the sending and receiving organisation. This agreement defines the tasks the volunteer will carry out during the EVS and the intended learning outcomes. As part of the agreement, the volunteer will receive an EVS info kit, which contains information about what to expect from EVS, how to use YouthPass, and to receive the certificate. With the preparation of participants, the training plan for participants and group leaders should be detailed here as deemed necessary for the success of the project. This should include the training to be provided and who this will be provided by and when. This must not only cover their task-based training, but also to ensure participants' safety and ability to engage with activities, and provide support for the intercultural and linguistic learning. Explain which partner will deliver preparatory activities and when they will take place, and include information about language and cultural prep, practical orientation and risk prevention, describing how preparations are relevant to their experience. We'll now move across to activities. Now, this is the most important part of the application form. Unlike the PDF forms, you are required to complete the budget headings for each activity separately, which includes special needs costs and exceptional costs. Therefore, you will need to ensure the costs are requested for the relevant activity. So for the first question, you will need to outline all activities, the context and the objectives, and the detail of how they meet the objectives of the project. For each activity, you should provide details on the type of activity, the venues, planned dates, working methods used, countries involved, and the roles of the participating organisations. Remember, this information is also to be provided within the timetable of activities, which will be annexed to the application. Now, for youth exchanges and APVs, the timetable should detail the programme for each day. For EVS, the timetable will provide a sample of 1 week's activity plan. And for youth worker mobility, the timetable should provide a sample of either a week's activity or programme overview if planning an activity of several weeks. In addition, describe how you decided on this programme and ensure that the methods and activities were relevant to your objectives, the learning outcomes and impact. All activities will need to demonstrate compliance with the principles and provisions described in the Erasmus Plus Programme Guide, Annex 1, Mobility Project for Young People and Youth Workers. This includes the use of a variety of informal and non-formal methods to generate learning. Formal methods should be strictly limited. All activities should include space for participants to reflect on their learning, ideally using YouthPass, and should encourage active participation, creativity and initiative. The activities you can apply for include the European Voluntary Service, EVS, youth exchanges and mobility of youth workers. Next, outline the methods you will use to ensure regular communication with your partners or other project stakeholders. A good partnership is crucial, so you should present a clear set of roles and responsibilities in the activity delivery, project management and administration, outlining the methods by which you maintain contact before, during and after. Finally, for the last question, explain the need for accompanying persons if this is applicable to you. Now, to complete your list of activities, click on the activity ID or use the menu button. First, select the activity type from the drop-down menu and then enter the activity title. Ensure you state whether this is a long-term activity or not. Now, the option for short-term or long-term activity is only made available if EVS has been selected as your activity type. If you were to select youth exchanges, you will be presented with a different field to provide the group name. For ease, we recommend you use the name of your partners for each group. Now, for each activity, enter the details of each flow by clicking the flow number or using the menu button again. Complete all the mandatory fields. The country of origin, the country of destination will provide options only based on the partners identified. City of venue. Start and end dates should reflect only the activity and exclude travel days. As best practice, you should allow at least a month after the earliest project start date in case the grant agreement or funding has not been received by the project start date. You should have made sufficient time to plan this accordingly. For the distance band, use the European Commission's distance calculator to calculate the one-way distance. The distance band selected calculates travel funding for a return journey. Distances should not be rounded up and are checked by the NA, and we will demonstrate how to use the distance calculator now. So, as you can see, when we type in the city, we are presented with a list of options. We have to select one for the calculator to acknowledge what we've selected. We will use the distance given in the application form. Next, we need to enter the number of participants, which must include all young people, group leaders, and accompanying persons. Ensure the minimum and maximum thresholds for each activity are adhered to. From the total participants numbers, you will need to identify the number of participants with special needs who will require additional support to aid their participation in the activity, and the number of participants with fewer opportunities. Accompanying persons are defined as someone who accompanies participants with special needs to ensure protection, provide support, and extra assistance. The field for group leaders, trainers, facilitators is only visible for youth exchanges, APVs, and youth work mobilities. A group leader must be at least 18 years of age, and their role in a youth exchange is to ensure effective learning for all participants. Travel days should reflect the travel distance bands chosen, and you are allowed to apply for a maximum of 2 travel days, one before and one after. For in-country travel where distances are less than 100 kilometers, the number of travel days required should be a maximum of 1, equating to half a day on each side of the activity. Fields within the budget section will also need to be completed. The overall budget will automatically calculate, and duration should be inclusive of travel days. So we'll just demonstrate this for you now. So we'll just enter the participant numbers, just ensuring that the participant numbers are consistent throughout. Okay, so once flow details are completed, go back to activity details using the top menu. Additional flows can be added by clicking Add Flow and removed by clicking the menu button and selecting Delete Flow. Further down, you will also be able to include any additional costs for special needs and exceptional costs. Now remember, this is all still within Activity 1, so this isn't an extra page for you. For both sections, you must enter the number of participants that these costs are required for, a description of the cost, and the amount you are actually requesting. Just some hints and tips. Any costs requested under these sections will need to be fully justified. A clear breakdown should be given for all costs, and each cost should be itemized separately. Ensure special needs and exceptional costs are requested against the correct activity. So for example, if you're applying for accommodation costs for an APV and visas for youth exchange participants, do not put these both under APV, as the youth exchange visas will be deemed ineligible under the APV. Reinforced mentorship costs are only eligible under EVS and must be justified and clear on the additional support to be provided. We expect that all participants receive some form of preparation and mentoring. Therefore, reinforced mentorship should only be in addition to this. Ensure participant numbers are correct and consistent throughout the activities section. After all activity and flow information has been completed for the first activity, check the final total budget for accuracy. The national agency is unable to award any additional grant for any administrative errors. Now, if we go back to the list of activities, if you have selected long-term EVS, you will now see a section to enter details for linguistic support. This can be requested for the costs linked to the support offered to participants prior to departure or during the activity in order to improve the knowledge of the language they will use to carry out their volunteering tasks. Where the online linguistic support is available in Group 1 languages, which are listed here, no linguistic support funding can be claimed. Now, you'll notice the first section is specific to language assessment, and then the second part is language course. For any languages that the assessment courses are not available in, €150 can be claimed per participant. More information can be found on this on the OLS platform, or you can contact us for more information. Now, as I mentioned before as well, so that should be 0 because we are applying for Finland, and then 5 under Group 2. So if we go back to the activities section, so main activities, so you can see now that we've added activity 1 once it's loaded. Just bear with us. Okay, we apologize. Seems to be an issue with the form. It's not uncommon, so just bear with us. We'll just wait for the section to load again. Okay, so we're back. So as you can see, if we go down to the bottom now, so we've added activity 1. So if we were to look at another activity, then we would just need to add a new activity and make sure all the costs are associated with that activity. So it's separately each time. So just bear that in mind. So we're now going to go through to follow up. So this looks at impact, dissemination, and evaluation. Now for this section, you should list the expected outcomes for participants resulting from their planned learning and active involvement and participation in the project. This could include knowledge, skills, changes in attitude or behaviour, impact on employment status, ability to access further education, well-being or lifestyle. Consider the most relevant and realistic outcomes. For participating organisations, detail how the activity might generate organisational learning or specific skills for staff, and describe the influence the project may have on their future work. Consider if this project will develop the participating organisations or participants' understanding of an issue, youth work, or train them in a new methodology that can be implemented in their local community. For example, will this raise the profile of an issue or an organisation locally, nationally, or internationally? Highlight any activities you plan to involve the wider community in and the benefits that this brings for them. Community involvement and benefit is an expectation of EVS projects and can bring added value. Given that dissemination should be considered throughout the project, you should ensure that dissemination activities are focused, relevant, and well described, and that the target audiences are clearly identified. Dissemination activities may be in the form of local meetings, workshops, or discussions, and you may use handouts, reports, evaluations, or videos. You may also plan to obtain press coverage or invite local councillors or decision makers to dissemination events. The Erasmus Plus marketing team is always keen to hear about interesting case studies, and there is an Erasmus Plus dissemination platform, which can be used to share project outcomes, called the European Project Results Platform. It is an integral part of staff mobility projects for each individual to cascade information across the formal and informal networks upon their return, and the dissemination takes place across all partner organisations. You are also expected to include a final evaluation of the project, in which you'll be able to assess whether or to what extent the project has been a success. This evaluation should highlight the learning outcomes for all involved. This section should also detail how activities will be monitored and through what methods they will be evaluated. We encourage evaluation before and during the activity in addition to the final evaluation. This helps with establishing baselines and identifying and implementing improvements. Consider involving partners, placement providers, and participants in all aspects of the evaluation stages. Okay, just bear with us a minute. We seem to have an issue, so just bear with us while we try to resolve this.
Hi there, everyone. Yes, as you can see, we're having a bit of a technical glitch at the moment. It appears to be a problem with the EU Commission server to pass the blame somewhat. So we're just looking into what's happening, and hopefully we can get everything up and running again in the next few minutes. We will keep you informed, however. So yeah. We seem to have got everything back up and running now, but it's a good example. You can see that even if there is a crash and you think you may have lost all of your data, no, it's all stayed in place and we're right back to where we left off. So I'll now hand you back over to Raj, who'll carry on going through the application process.
Okay, sorry about that. So we got two follow-ups. So it's just some hints and tips we were giving. So also back to evaluation, consider identifying how you will evaluate the activities during the project and the participant satisfaction with the placement overall. We would like you to consider things like evaluating the management processes, the longer term evaluation of the project, and how these findings will actually be used. Now we're just going to move into the budget section. So as you can see, there already is a green tick here because the budget section really, it's pulled off from the activities section. So it will show with the green tick once everything's been finalized. So it provides an overview based on the activities entered and allows you to add any additional comments in the top box. Each section will be displayed on the budget page and you'll be able to jump to any of the details under the heading by selecting the activity ID under each title. It is important to be aware that if the project is approved, the applicant organisation will receive the grant and will be responsible for distributing it amongst the partners to ensure effective delivery of the project. Now, there are two funding mechanisms under Key Action 1 Youth Mobility. Unit costs are a set amount per participant, which is a contribution towards the overall cost. For some unit costs, you will be actually able to spend more, and for some, perhaps less than the unit costs. But unit costs are used to make the funding simpler to understand and manage. The second is actual costs, which means that you will receive funding for actual spending, but the actual costs are used for budget headings like exceptional costs and special needs support, and they can be fully or partly reimbursed. It should be noted that if you've requested less than the actual funds, the NA are only able to cover up to the maximum granted and not exceed this. Remember, the Erasmus Plus grant is regarded as a contribution to your project costs and may not cover the total cost of your project. The UK National Agency cannot award any funding over the amount requested, so please ensure you check the budget thoroughly before submitting this e-form. The budget categories for Key Action 1 Youth project include the following. Travel, which is a contribution towards the cost of each participant's return journey from their place of origin to the location of their mobility activity. Travel is calculated on a unit cost basis and is based on the travel distance according to the distance calculator. In addition to travel rates, if justified in the application form, a participant can be entitled to receive up to 2 top-ups for expensive domestic travel costs to participate within the same mobility activity. One is to reach a main hub, airport, and/or a train bus station within the country of origin for remote areas, and one more to reach a remote final destination within the receiving country. You should indicate how many of these per participant you wish to claim in the column top up for expensive domestic travel costs for each flow. This is a contribution to the domestic travel costs exceeding €225 per round trip, and the maximum that can be claimed is €180 per participant. In addition, please note this can only be requested for travel within programme countries. The next is individual support, which is only applicable to EVS and is calculated on a unit cost basis according to the country of destination and the duration of the activity. It is intended as pocket money and is not expected to cover food or accommodation costs. Organisational support is calculated on a unit cost basis and is a contribution towards costs directly linked to the implementation of mobility activities. It excludes subsistence for participants, and the funds are expected to include preparation, monitoring and support, and validation of learning outcomes. Linguistic support is only applicable to long-term EVS and will not be visible if this is not listed as an activity in your project. Special needs support is only applicable if you plan to involve participants with special needs or disability, which will result in additional costs. The component of the grant is based on an estimate of the likely actual costs relating specifically to the needs of the participants with disabilities. Ensure you provide a clear and detailed justification for the amount requested. This will be assessed as part of the overall assessment of the application. If the request is not considered reasonable, it may be reduced or removed. While there is no limit to the amount you can request, the balance will be payable on actual costs evidenced at final report stage. Exceptional costs are also calculated on an actual cost basis, and applicants must detail how many participants the funds are required for and a breakdown of costs in the narrative. Funding rules state that these costs are specifically to support the following: visa and visa-related costs, costs for providing a financial guarantee, expensive travel costs of participants from outermost regions and overseas countries and territories, participation of young people with fewer opportunities, cost in supporting reinforced mentorship and specific preparation in case of participation of young people with fewer opportunities, costs to support the participation of young people affected by situations such as homelessness, mental health, substance dependency, or those with a criminal background. Now, accommodation costs for advanced planning visits can also be requested under exceptional costs. A maximum of 2 days activity and 3 nights accommodation. For youth exchanges, you are able to send one group leader and, if required, one participant, provided the participant is a young person taking part in the activity. For EVS, you are able to send one participant per sending organisation. Additional participants can be sent provided all participants are volunteers with fewer opportunities. Now, examples of the costs given vary across activity types, so please refer to the programme guide for additional clarification. The additional comments box should be used to provide any further justification or information to the assessor. If any errors are identified, you will need to go back to the flows and activities to amend these. Moving on to project summary. Ensure you provide a well-written, comprehensive summary of your project. Project summaries must be written in plain, clear English and free from jargon. It is important to be concise and clear and mention at least the following elements: the context and the background of your project, objectives of the project, number and profile of participants, description of activities, methodology to be used in carrying out the project, a short description of the results and impact envisaged, and the potential longer-term benefits. The summary may be used by the European Commission or the national agency in their publications and will also feed into the Erasmus Plus dissemination platform. Now, the subsections, summary of participating organisations and summary of activities and participants, are pre-populated tables based on the information from earlier sections in the application. The budget summary is a table which provides an overview of the activity numbers, activity types, and grants requested for the project. Project total grant is also a pre-populated table which contains the total combined grant requested for the project. It is important for you to check the amount is correct against your own calculations. All issues must be resolved before submission. Moving on to annexes. Up to 10 annexes relevant to your application can be uploaded, and the following documents are mandatory. The Declaration of Honour needs to be downloaded from this page by clicking Download Declaration of Honour. This will need to be printed and signed by the legal representative named in the application. This must be scanned and attached as an annex to your online application by clicking Add Declaration of Honour. This document needs to be hand-signed, and no electronic signature or inserts of photos or scans of signatures can be accepted. The Youth Activity Timetable template for youth applications can be found on the Erasmus Plus website. Click Add Timetable to upload. Partner mandates for each partner must also be annexed. Both the applicant and partner legal representative must hand-sign these. Applicants need to ensure all documents specified in the checklist are submitted electronically with the application. Click Add File to upload each document. Please note only PDF, DocX, XLS, JPEG, text, ODT, and ODS files can be submitted electronically. No other files will be accepted. A file which has been added in error can be removed by clicking the X button on the corresponding row. Finally, we will proceed to checklist. Now, this provides a quick review checklist so that you are able to mark off the completed submission activities. Ensure you fulfill all the listed requirements. Additionally, please refer to the application checklist the UKNA have created to aid you in preparing and submitting your application. This can be found in our guide for applicants on page 61. The Data Protection Notice provides information on the data protection, which applicants are required to read. Once you have read this, tick the box to confirm you agree with the notice. Moving on to submission now. So once you've completed the application form, you will need to check the following components. Check all mandatory fields have been completed. Any sections displaying a red triangle needs to be fully completed. Read the data protection notice and tick the box. The legal representative of the applicant organisation must print the Declaration of Honour, read it, complete the fields and hand sign the form. And the signed Declaration of Honour should be scanned and attached as an annex. We encourage you to submit your application as early as possible. Ensure you are connected to the internet at all times while completing the application. Download the completed PDF version for your own records using the PDF button. Applicants now also have the option to share applications on a read-only basis. Okay. The deadline mentioned in the form is Brussels time, so please note the form needs to be submitted online by 11 AM UK time on the deadline day. We advise you to leave plenty of time in completing your application and submitting it online before the deadline in case of any unexpected technical difficulties as you've experienced today. When you are ready, press the submit button. That button will not actually show if the sections have not been completed correctly. If the submission is successful, the submission summary will update with the submission ID. We advise you to save a final copy to evidence successful submission in case of any queries from the NA. If there are any technical issues preventing the form from being submitted and you are unable to submit the application, you should follow the alternative submission procedure outlined in the guide for applicants. This asks you to take a screenshot of the submission summary page, demonstrating that the e-form could not be submitted online, and emailing this along with your application and annexes to the UK National Agency within 2 hours of the official deadline, which would be 1 PM UK time. Lastly, please be advised applicants cannot make any changes to their grant application after the submission deadline. We're now going to switch back to the presentation. Hope that was helpful for you.
Thank you, Raj. Yes, we'll now switch back to the presentation. There we go. Okay. So, as my colleague Raj stated, you'll need to ensure that all annexes are attached before attempting submission. The most important annexes which are mandatory are the Declaration of Honour, which needs to be printed, completed in full, and hand-signed by the project's legal representative named within the application. As you've seen during the presentation, this is found at the end of the actual e-form. This is the most important annex, as without it, we are not able to forward the application to assessment. This document will be a PDF, so please ensure that you have the most up-to-date version of Adobe and are able to download this. Activity timetable, in which you'll provide a time frame and description of the planned activities. One must be submitted for each activity type. Partner mandates need to be completed for each partner, including branches which are part of an EVS project. The last two annexes mentioned, the timetable and partner mandates, can be found on our website under the Apply for Youth Mobility Funding page. We recommend that where possible you scan the same type of documents together into a single file. For example, all partner mandates to be scanned together rather than individually. You need to check that the annexes don't exceed the maximum 10 megabyte size and are in file formats accepted by the e-form, which are listed in our guide for applicants. If you continue to experience problems with attaching annexes after having checked these aspects, you can email them to erasmusplus@acorus.com before the deadline, clearly stating which application form they relate to by providing the application hash code and also telling us your organisation's details and project name. However, please only do this as an exception and ensure you've followed all the available guidance first. You'll need to ensure that you're connected to the internet in order to complete the application form, as it is web-based. If you experience technical problems which you're unable to resolve, you need to follow the alternative submission procedure, but please be mindful we can only accept technical errors with the e-form. We've created an application checklist which is included in our Key Action 1 Youth Guide for applicants to help you check all required steps have been completed in preparing and submitting your application. Once you receive your application, the UK National Agency will do some preliminary checks on your application. Your application will not be deemed ineligible. Your application will be deemed ineligible and will not go forward to assessment if it does not meet any of the eligibility criteria specified in the Programme Guide for Key Action 1 Youth Mobility Projects. You will find these on pages 80 to 82. On the slide, there are some examples, but please remember this is not a full list. Examples include your application won't be eligible, your planned activities are not eligible under Key Action 1 Youth. Your application won't go through to qualitative assessment if your organisation as applicant has no legal personality in the UK. Alongside your application, there are a number of documents that need to be annexed and these should not be missing. Lastly, and most important, is to remember that your application won't be considered eligible if you submit after the deadline. Once your application has been deemed as eligible, the NA will arrange for it to be assessed by external experts from a qualitative point of view against the award criteria published on page 83 of the Programme Guide. On this slide, you can see the 3 award criteria, which shows that an application can score a maximum of 100 points. As a rule for application to be eligible to be awarded funding, it must score a minimum of 60 points, but also at least half of the maximum points in each award criteria. When reading the award criteria information within the Programme Guide, you will notice that each criterion has sub-points. These need to be taken into consideration preparing your application. I'd like to point out that as part of the assessment process, the National Agency will also check that requested budget is in line with funding rules set out of Part B of the Programme Guide. As a result, if there are any budget requests that do not follow rules, your requested budget may be reduced. During the qualitative assessment process, applications will also be assessed against other relevant areas. Applicants will need to comply with the exclusion criteria which can be found in the 2017 Programme Guide. These are situations such as being bankrupt or participating in criminal activities. An applicant will be excluded from participant in call for proposals or be rejected from the award procedure if it is found in one of the situations described in this criteria. The selection criteria assesses the organisation's operational capacity and financial capacity. In terms of operational capacity, applicants need to demonstrate the capacity to successfully deliver Erasmus Plus projects and administer them in accordance with the grant agreement and the 2017 Programme Guide. the assessment of all involved in delivering the planned project, and the past history of the applicant in delivering EU-funded projects. An outcome of this analysis may be that the national agency may limit the number of live projects an organisation manages at any one time if it doesn't evidence sufficient organisational capacity to deliver successfully deliver them. In terms of financial capacity, as you know, Erasmus Plus projects are co-funded and grants may not cover all costs. Projects must be delivered and reported using only a pre-financing payment. Therefore, applicants must have a stable and sufficient source of funding to complete the project. Note, however, that the national agency doesn't complete a financial capacity check on public bodies and international organisations, or where the grant request doesn't exceed €60,000. Finally, when planning your project, remember that each project financed by the EU is entitled to receive just for one grant from the EU budget. In cases where organisations are also receiving funding from other sources to deliver similar activities, it is the responsibility of the applicant to ensure they remain compliant with relevant funding rules, including those in relation to double funding, which are detailed in Part C of the Programme Guide. The national agency will be validating your organisation and also report partner organisations. This is a separate process for the assessment of your application. Therefore, the fact that your organisation has been validated does not automatically imply a successful outcome of your application. During the validation process, the national agency will check whether all the information you have put in the participant portal is complete and correct. We will check whether the required legal and financial forms have been uploaded, as well as the supporting documents. More information about this can be found in Part C of the Programme Guide, starting on page 245, including information on the exclusion criteria. Your partners will also need to be validated by their national agencies. Please note that organisations that are not valid cannot take part in Erasmus Plus funded projects. If you or your partners cannot provide the correct and fully completed documents during the validation process, there may be significant delays to the processing of your application, and the NA may even have to withdraw its offer of funding if your application is successful. Now, to take a look at the budget rules. As you can see in this slide, there is no maximum budget that could be requested, but this will have to be a realistic request based on the planned activities and your organisational capacity. Some key points to remember about the budget. There are unit costs and cost contributions and actual cost contributions. With unit costs, the funding is automatically calculated depending on the unit. For example, this can be the number of participants for a certain duration or a set cost per distance travelled. Budget headings using unit costs are travel, top-ups for expensive domestic travel, organisational support, individual support and linguistic support where eligible, and for EVS projects only. Funding for actual costs is based on the real cost of the item or service, but only a certain percentage of the cost will be covered. Budget headings using actual costs are special needs support up to 100% and exceptional costs. Under exceptional costs, only a percentage of the actual total costs will be funded via Erasmus Plus budget. Please find more information on pages 89 to 99 of the Programme Guide. It is important to note that any request for financial support to cover special needs support and exceptional costs must be clearly explained in the application form. The assessor will not assume anything in relation to these costs and can recommend cutting them from the budget unless adequately justified. So, before we conclude, some key points for you to remember. Before and while you complete your application, refer to the Commission's documents. First of all, the 2017 Programme Guide, the National Agency's Guide for Applicants, and other guidance documents available on our website. If you applied before, don't forget to review the feedback you've received from us, as this will include key areas of improvement which will enhance your chances of submitting a good quality application. Ensure correct options are selected on the application so that important sections aren't deleted. As we said, while looking through the application form, double check that the budget you request is accurate and well justified. Provide relevant answers to the questions in the application, but remember that there is a character limit on many of the sections. Get someone else to proofread your application at Annexes, perhaps against the published award criteria. Leave enough time for completing and submitting your application before the deadline. To conclude, I would like to remind you of support the UK National Agency will be offering the run-up to the upcoming deadlines of the 2017 call year for applications to be submitted under Key Action 1 Youth for each round. A detailed guide for applicants on how to fill out and submit the application form is available. Please make sure you check the correct one, as these guides are tailored to each key action type we manage. If you haven't done so already, please sign up to our newsletter, as this provides all the most up-to-date information about the call and the Erasmus Plus programme. Our website holds other important information and key documents to support you with completing your application. If you have any questions or find yourself in need of guidance, you can always contact the Erasmus Plus helpline. Details of the helpline can be found in this slide right now, along with the email address to direct any questions towards. So thank you for your attention. We'll remain here for a further few minutes to answer any outstanding questions you may have. Alternatively, you can contact us on the helpline if you have any queries. Our team is available every Monday to Friday to answer any questions you may have via the erasmusplus@chorus.com inbox or our helpline. You can see the number on the slide and you can find it on your handout as well. Do also keep an eye on the Erasmus Plus website for news and further guidance. We hope you found this session useful today, and we wish you the best of luck with your future applications. Yes, and as well as this, a link to a recorded version of this webinar will also be sent out to all attendees in the next coming days. So, as I mentioned, we're going to hang around for about 5 to 10 minutes to answer any further questions any of you guys may have, so feel free to ask us anything. Thank you.